All right, hi seniors, happy Thursday. In the next week or so, leading up to Easter break, I am just going to be talking about each of the modern issues in journalism that are listed on slide 23 in the slideshow that's in Classroom. I'm going to talk about three a day, today, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, just to give you kind of a brief overview of each of the issues. And then on your own, you guys are examining 2 to 3 of those issues in way more depth. So if you're choosing to do the full length 4-page research paper, then you are just spending the next 2 weeks working solely on that paper, getting it done, getting it ready to turn in. And if you're choosing to do assignments, then you have about 4 to 5 assignments that you will do every other day. Both the paper and the assignments address the same topics. You're answering the same questions and you're getting the same kind of information. Some of you are just choosing to do it in the form of a full-length paper and just dedicating all your time to one paper, whereas the rest of you that are doing the assignments are finding out the same information just through the form of 5 assignments. So you're getting the same information out. It's equal work. It just kind of depends if you're choosing to do it broken down into 5 assignments or just one paper. That's kind of how it goes. But either way, all of you at this point are addressing and doing deeper research into 2 to 3 major issues in modern journalism. And I'm just going to post a video every day examining 3 of those issues in a broader overview so that you still get some information about the issue that maybe you're not researching, and also to aid you in finding out more information about the topic that you are researching. This is just so that all of you get kind of the same information. You understand some of the major issues that journalists are facing today, some of the modern issues in journalism, and you have the information that you need to be successful on upcoming quizzes and on your paper or assignments. So the first one we're going to talk about today is personalized news feeds. And that's an issue just because it leads to further confirmation bias and kind of what's called a bias bubble. So personalized news feeds is basically just the algorithms that Google, Facebook, Twitter, most social media sites use to make sure that the information that's on your feed is tailored specifically to you and your interests. And obviously there's ways where this can be a really positive thing. It makes whatever information you're receiving a lot more engaging to you because it's stuff you're actually interested in. It helps boost businesses. It helps, let's say, writers or businesses or different advertisers just to get their information out to people who will actually care about it and to who it's more relevant to. So that's the thing that's good about personalized news feeds. On the flip side of that, it's an issue because it kind of leads you down a really deep road of bias where you're only receiving information that aligns with your beliefs and you're only receiving information that's tailored to you. And it can kind of lead to extremists, whether you become either extremely biased in the political world, extremely biased in terms of like supporting different businesses. Maybe it leads to bias in terms of who you think is reliable or not. There's different stuff like that that can become really problematic with personalized news feeds. So these algorithms are based on previous search histories, your geographic location, other demographics like your age, your gender, stuff like that, things that you've liked in the past, whether it was a Facebook like, a Twitter little favorite, different stuff like that. That's kind of the algorithm that personalized news feeds use, depending on what site you're on, to make sure that the information you receive is kind of tailored to you, and then it gets rid of information that they don't think you'll be interested in. So let's say you're someone who's a lot more left-leaning politically, and you get a lot of your information from things like Twitter or from Google News, stuff like that. Those algorithms are going to make sure that you only see news that aligns with your personal beliefs. So it's going to send you further and further down kind of left-winged news, and you're not going to be able to understand right-wing perspectives. You're not going to get access to those perspectives, and you're not going to see that bias. And then that just further confirms your own biases and can lead to more confirmation bias. So obviously that's never a good thing when you're not getting access to information outside of what your own beliefs are. It kind of traps you in a bubble and puts you in a box. You're not able to see a full scope of opinions and a full range of ideas. So that's the problem with personalized news feeds. It's also a problem because for certain writers, their news then isn't getting out to everyone. It's being kind of blocked off because of these algorithms, and so they're not able to get their information out, even if they're using the internet, even if they're using these really common means of getting information spread to people. Personalized news feeds will kind of block off certain sources and make other sources more accessible, depending on the user. And so this makes it so that some people, obviously their news gets streamed to everybody, everyone sees it more and more, whereas other writers, they're not getting shown on people's feeds. And so that's another issue that comes from personalized news feeds, just in that it leads to more confirmation bias. It kind of blocks some writers from getting their news out there, and it gives these algorithms kind of a say in which sites they want people to access or not based on these algorithms. And again, that can be a good thing if they're trying to make it so that you're seeing stuff they think you'll be interested in. to circulate business or advertising. But when it comes to news, that's not a good thing. You don't want news that's only biased and news that only shows you stuff that aligns with your opinion. You want to be able to see the full scope of opinions. Even if you don't align with that, it's still good for you to read what other people are coming from and understand their biases as well, so you get a full picture. So that's kind of the problem that comes with personalized news feeds and why it's an issue in modern journalism today. The next one is declining circulation and a lack of subscribers. And this one is just straightforward business sense. If you have less people subscribing, less people spending money, then you are not going to do well as a business. And so that's just an issue in modern journalism because journalists are not able to make as much money. They're not able to be as successful in that career and not able to make a living off of it. And so then that leads to a decline of people choosing to go into journalism, which can then lead to less news being able to get out there because they just don't have the manpower to get it all out when they need to, or to do deep edits, or to cover different topics. They kind of have to pick and choose when you're low on writers. So lots of just like business things that come down to lack of circulation and lack of subscribers, and it has mostly to do with finances. If you think of news as a business and this business doesn't have enough money coming in to sustain itself, obviously it's going to collapse and it's going to start failing. And that's something that we're starting to see with news today. I do think that that's something that's going to change because we're kind of in a transition period between when news was normally sent through newspapers and television, and now people primarily receive their news through online sources like social media and Google searches and stuff like that. And I think we're just in a transition period where newspapers and journalists have to learn how to embrace that. And so we're kind of seeing a huge decline, but I do think it's going to be back on the up once people figure out how to use the internet to their advantage. And people are starting to do that. It's just kind of a really slow process. So Pew Research Center kind of showed that every single year we see a decline in people reading the news, people watching the news, people accessing the news on the internet. It's just slowly been declining for a long time now. And right now we're down to 38 million people in the United States who say that they regularly read the news, which is the lowest it's been since 1945. So people are just choosing not to read and access the news right now. And there's a lot of different speculation as to why that might be, but that's a really common issue that journalists and people working in news media are facing today, is just this crisis of we don't have enough people subscribing and buying our papers, so we're losing circulation, we're losing subscribers, we're losing money, and then we can't sustain ourselves, which leads to bankruptcy. So that's just kind of an economic issue that journalists are facing today. And then finally, the demand for 24-hour news. This is an issue just because obviously that puts a lot of pressure on reporters. And if you have a high demand to get news out as quickly as possible, that can sometimes take away from the time that is necessary to do deep editing, to do really careful editing, to clearly read through everything, make sure you understand all the context about something that's going on. And one really clear example of this is everything that happened with Kobe Bryant's death, where a lot of information was brought to the public by random sources and nothing really aligned because no one took the time to really understand the situation or understand all the details leading up to it. People just kind of released information first and worried about ethics and clarity second. And that led obviously to a really tragic understanding of the whole situation in the United States, and was also really harmful to Kobe Bryant's whole family just because information wasn't given out properly, and so they ended up finding out through TMZ, which obviously would suck. So that's just another issue that comes with the 24-hour cycle demand for news, is that when you care more about getting news out quickly, then you start to kind of lack a little bit when it comes to ethics and when it comes to editing and when it comes to context and stuff like that. And so we see news that hasn't been as clearly edited, it hasn't been read over, there's not a lot of research done, not enough context provided. We get the information right away, but we don't get the background information. And this leads to a misinformed public, which can then in turn lead to a distrust of the media. So there's a whole snowball of issues that can come just from this demand for 24-hour news. And so that's another issue, is just trying to combat kind of the need to get news out as quickly as possible while still understanding that good writing and good news takes time to produce. So those are just 3 issues that modern journalists are facing. I'll talk about another 3 tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, just to talk about kind of 15 general issues, kind of summarizing the main problems that modern journalists are facing, issues that are happening in the world of journalism today, just to kind of give you guys that understanding. This is important for you guys to understand just because you are consumers of news, you're consumers of media. Your job as a member of society is to be well informed and well educated on the issues that are going on. I do think that's a responsibility that you all have as citizens. And when these issues are going on, it's important for you to understand them in order to kind of combat them and help solve the problem. So yeah, that's basically just a rundown the 24-hour cycle news demand, why that's an issue, of declining circulation, lack of subscribers, why that's an issue, and why personalized news feeds can become an issue to journalists as well. So if you have any questions, please just let me know. You can always shoot me an email, comment, anything like that. And then, yeah, happy Thursday.